Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Enough channel. In this video, we're going to look at our updated NRL SuperCoach team after the big announcement that this year the stats provider that SuperCoach will be using has changed. So previously they've used the Fox Sports data, but now they're going to go to the NRL data. I forget the name of the official company that does it, but basically, I guess they'll be using the same sort of data as what's used in NRL fantasy. And I know as soon as it dropped, I got messages from people and saw all the chat online about, this is outrageous and, this season's a wash. And I think just a lot of general overreaction. So probably part of the reason why I didn't get on straight away. Also, I've just been super busy with life. This weekend was super hectic. Um, but yeah, just sort of quickly jump on, have a bit of a chat about it, go through my team as it's changed a little bit, and we'll go from there. So, I guess for those that aren't aware, although I'm sure you're all watching other videos and stuff, it's a case of they've changed the stats provider. So things like try assists will change. Previously it was a bit more subjective based on who had the most influence on the try being scored. Now it's just going to be whoever touched the ball last will get it on to get the try assist. So previously that was a try contribution worth 4 points. Now it's worth 12 points, um, and potentially as well a line break assist in there as well. So um, there is potential for quite a few more points. And if you think about those last passes, they're generally the ones that will probably benefit the most are your centers, touching and passing on to the wingers who are often unmarked. Um, may affect some of the fullbacks and halfbacks that, make the space with their shapes further infield. But, I think that's one thing that's changed. And, it's probably good that it's easier to tell who gets the try assist now. Um, but yeah, it obviously means that there might be a bit of value in those centers. The other one is going to be the tackles. So previously, Fox Sports pretty much only gave credit to the first two tacklers, but now your third and fourth in will also get the point. So this will probably, I think, most impact the hookers that often come in to help sort of clean up the tackle after the first couple may sort of stop the momentum. The third man in to sort of get them on the ground will also be affected with the tackle. So yeah, I think hookers, some middle forwards will probably benefit as well, but yeah, I think hookers are the big winner. And I think overall, when you look at it, a lot of people are panicking that they're using the same stats as fantasy, so it's going to become the same game. The reality is that in Supercoach you get more points for the attacking plays such as tries, line breaks, and probably slightly less penalised for mistakes. So I think Supercoach does still skew a little bit more to the attacking side of the game, but I think also what it does, if we're bringing in these extra tackles and stuff, um, it is sort of evening out the scores. Like last year, we saw there was a big discrepancy from centre wings to hookers in terms of averages. I think there'll be some hookers that average a bit closer to those elite centre wings. I still think, your backs are where most of your scoring is. And I guess, the team is still fairly reflective of that. Um, but I think it's going to be a bit more even. Whereas in fantasy, if you've seen my fantasy team, it's just stack the middle, stack, the forward pack and your halves as much as you can. And then just whatever's left, just cheap options in the centers and wing fullbacks because, they don't score a lot of points relative to, the base stat beast in the middle. So, um, yeah, so I think Supercoach is probably still the slightly superior game because of that. And yeah, I think it's gonna be very interesting. But I guess with that diatribe done with, I'll go through my team. I'll go through in reverse order just because I think one of the bigger changes has occurred in the back line. Um, and so you might have noticed that I've got two of Picky's fallen down into the flex position. And that's because we've traded out Scott Drinkwater. And with that, we've brought in another centre wing, and namely Val Holmes. So, well, actually, I think the centre we brought in was Selwyn Cobbo. Val Holmes is actually a replacement for Jacob Kiraz. So it sort of hurt the trade out Jacob, but he's got a bit of an injury at the moment, and then obviously he's got Vegas. They have a round two bye, so the Bulldogs don't actually play for 3 weeks after Vegas. Um, so I thought, well, I think we'll just have a look how he goes in Vegas. And then, obviously, if he kills it and he looks the goods, we'll find a way to get him in round 4 or 5 when his price is about to go up. Round 4 would be the right answer. But yeah, there's a bit of water to go under the bridge there. And I just thought, start of the season, we don't want guns on buys. It's sort of, I guess, a strategy adopted from AFL with their sort of early buys is you try to avoid those guns. Or sorry, avoid having those guns on buys because a lot of money sitting on the bench when you don't necessarily, or you can't necessarily afford it. Particularly, we don't get, best 13 or something when one team's on the buy. So with that, I brought Val Holmes in, and then I guess the news of the scoring changes and the fact that he's might be in line for a few more try assists sort of made it pretty obvious that he was the smarter pick to start the season. So the other move was Scotty Drinkwater out. So I guess with that change in terms of the fullbacks might not get as much credit. I still think Scott Drinkwater is an elite option that we do want to target, and I don't think you should fade fullback entirely. There was a lot of chat about Teddy's points will go down, Reece Walsh's points will go down, um, but when you look at the top five averages adjusted, you've still got Reece Walsh, you've still got Teddy up there, Cleary, Haas. I think Terrell May might have snuck in at number 5. So I think probably the 5 most expensive players currently are still the 5 highest scoring with all the changes. Right, there might be some changes in the mid-price values that you need to consider. And given last year that I purely chased value and it went terribly, I am trying to sort of go a bit more of a guns and rookies type build where possible. Um, so I've still got Ponga, still got Kinney at fullback. Um, yeah, Ponga, it's hard to tell because obviously we need to see him in Vegas. It sounds like he won't play the trials. He didn't play on the weekend. Um, don't think he'll play this weekend coming up. I think they'll put Fletcher Sharp at fullback. Maybe give Dylan Brown a run in the halves with Sandon Smith. Um, because I think with the new interchange rules as well, which is probably the other new thing that's locked in since the last video I did, I think Fletcher Sharp is that perfect 14. He covers the whole back line, and then that gives him the option of having a dedicated hooker on the bench, dedicated edge player, and then they can have 3 middles and really just roll through that middle rotation, assuming there's no injuries, or if they need a little X factor, you slot Fletcher Sharp in anywhere and he'll do something for the team. So, um, so that's the way I sort of see the Newcastle team lining up. With that, I am considering going back to Sandon Smith at the 5/8 position with Munster, trading out Munster. But as I said, I think if I can just lock in the guns at the start, I think I will lean towards that, particularly in the 5/8 position where it's like there's no standout options other than obviously Pezzett as a cheapie. Um, so I think I'm happy with Munster for now. Cleary, Sanders haven't changed in the halves. I should have mentioned as well, Eero Tyre haven't changed. So I know a few people may be switching from Tyre to a Casey McLean or Isaac Tungo based on the new scoring. But I think Tyre still offers great value given that he was playing injured for a lot of last year. And Penrith started really slow as well. I think they'll start hot this year despite the tough draw. And I think Tyre will be perfectly fine. And so then in the forwards, a little bit of change. I did have a little bit of extra cash, so I've upgraded to McEwen as a playable option off the bench. Um, but then probably the other big changes at hooker. So I guess especially now with the potential for additional tackles, I think Reed Marnie is a must. Um, and I had the money downgrading Drinkwater as well to bring in Jake Simpkin on the bench. So I think he's got potential for good minutes. And again, if the tackle counts are going to be up, which will affect probably hookers across the board, I think his value is only increased as a result of that. But yeah, those are the changes to the team. Obviously, some of the guys we've already had, so I won't go back through them. Very positive signs from Couchman in the trial. So I think he will be the cheapy second rower on my bench. Um, they have a bit of cash available, 66K, but not too sure what to do with it. Because yeah, it's like I guess if Halangahu gets to the start at the second row, I might have to try and rejig this. It could even be, if Tuapiki doesn't start at fullback like I'm projecting, could be an option there. Um, but yeah, I think that's the main stuff. Is just don't rip up your whole team just because they're changing the scoring. I think if you were on the fence about someone, like maybe you were tossing up with Val Holmes, um, I think the extra potential scoring will help. As I said, I had these hookers in previous iterations of the team, but then ultimately took them out because I thought, well, hooker's not going to make any money. But with additional tackles, there probably is some more value at hooker now. Um, but yeah, guys like Payne Haas will be fine. Nathan Cleary will be fine. Like your gun fullbacks, if you've got them, they will be fine. Um, like I said, I think just pivoting away from Drinky just allowed me to get a bit more value into hooker. Um, yeah, and there is still a world where I could get him in. Ponga could go up, Tuapiki could go down potentially, for example. Um, it all depends on team list Tuesday. So that's where it's currently at. And yeah, we'll wrap the video up there. So as always, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you enjoy the NRL SuperCoach content. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.